project Data Artistry that had creatives translate research in mental health. I'm really excited to be in conversation with Pollicy, in conversation with Vodo about data artistry, the intersectionality of data, civil service, and creativity, and a grassroots approach to feedback about policy and data collection. And I'll be hosting Philip, Bonita, and Wamala. Philip and Bonita from Pollicy, Wamala is from Vodo Art Society, and I'm from Motive. And together we'll be talking about their project Data Artistry that had creatives translate research in mental health into mirrors that were placed in communities. It's an exciting project, and I'm really glad to have them here in the studio with me, and they'll be giving us, shedding some insight on how the project went and their recollections on it. I'm really glad to have you here. We are at Motive, and the Motive Podcast Studios. Motive is a home for creatives, and we provide tools and resources to enable scale creative businesses. And my name is Trevor. I'm the arts associate at Motive, and I'll be in conversation with people who are going to introduce themselves and what they do. So I think let's start with you.
Hi Trevor. Hi everyone. My name is Philip Ayazika. I manage programs at Pollicy Uganda.
Hi everyone, happy to be here. My name is Bonita Nyamwire and I lead the research team at Pollicy.
That is so cool.
Greetings. My name is Omar Joseph, and I'm an artist director at Vodo Art Society.
Okay. So I want for the people who will be listening in and watching this to give them a background from your perspective as Pollicy. What is data artistry? Why are you interested in that intersection of data and artistry? So give us the background to the project, and then Vodo will also give us the background to how they came into that project, and then Bonita will tie in with research, how data and artistry merge and why that is important. So I think we'll go with you first.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you. Yeah. So I think I'll begin with who Pollicy is. So Pollicy is a feminist collective. Yeah. We're a collective of technologists, data scientists, creatives, the most important bit, and we work at the intersection of data design and technology. But the main idea is that we get to craft better life experiences for citizens. So what is data artistry, you asked? So like the name is, it's a given, data and artistry. So just a combination of data. So the power of numbers, the power of information, and then artistry. So putting together, data and art, and just harnessing the power of data artistry. How we came to work on this project. So like I've said, Pollicy has a range of creatives that we work with, and for quite a long time we've worked with creatives on various aspects of the work that we do. And why we work with creatives? Because we feel like creatives have a greater role to play in community, because they have too much power. Creatives have a great following. Creatives are down to the ground. Creatives are relatable. They are from the communities. So for us, the issue was, how do we get creatives to contribute to the ecosystem of information, the ecosystem of the work that we do. So we've done several researches, but we were asking ourselves, how do we demystify the jargon, that comes out in data reports, research reports, and help the people understand this, this research, and put this information to the people, because information is power, and the research we do is very important, not only to policymakers but even to the citizens in the grassroots communities. I would say our first project that we worked with creatives was called Create Your Kampala. We're using data artistry, mostly mirrors, and the various kinds of art to remind citizens of what their civic rights and duties are, and that sort of laid ground for us. But also we had worked for creatives for a long time, and we said, what can we offer creatives? They've been working on these projects. And also, Trevor, I want to mention that, and Wamala will agree with me, that creatives are always expected to come in and give the show, at whatever cost. Whether you're battling depression or what, whether you're broke or what, you're expected to come and pull off the show, give people fun, let people have fun, let the people turn up. And for us, we wanted to tackle the well-being of creatives, the creatives' well-being. Well, we're asking these guys to give us the show, but how are they? How are they really are?
Maybe just to sort of cut you off.
Yeah.
You say something interesting about Pollicy being a feminist-led collective at that intersection, and you've given us sort of a background, but I want Bonita to sort of chip in, because she's a researcher and she collects all this data. So I just want to know, because you've given us an entry point.
Right.
I'd like, from Bonita's perspective, how was it working with artists to make this data more accessible? Because I see, that's the challenge Philip set out. That while you collect all this data goes into the public domain, but how has the collaboration with the artists helped people access it better? How has that worked out for you? I just want to get your perspective on the background Philip gave us.
Our data, so what you're talking about is generally sharing the findings, disseminating the findings to the public to get to know what was in this research, but also we want them to use the recommendations, to implement the recommendations. So for what we do is we have different ways of disseminating our information. Some we use online platforms, on Twitter, on Facebook to share these findings. But in particular for the research studies that we have conducted with creative artists, we have used murals, paintings out there to share the findings of these studies. So like the Create Your Kampala project, which Philip talked about, we had murals around the areas where we did the data collection in Kampala. They were paintings that people would look at and they speak to them about keeping their environment clean, about sending children to school, about security issues and something like that. So the same applies to this study on data artistry for mental health. We used the murals to be able to send out the message about mental health and the intersection with creatives, okay? So whoever sees the mural will be able to, and these murals were simple and easy to understand for the public.
Yeah, that's sort of the next thing I had to ask you. And after that, Wamala will jump in to comment on that. Because you have all this structured information through research. It's structured in a way that the way it's collected and the research methodology. Then how did you find translating that into these murals and into these visual art pieces? How was that process working with the artists?
So as Pollicy, we have a methodology that we use in translating the findings to something that the beneficiaries can work with. And in this context, the beneficiaries were the creative artists. So we worked with the findings of the research study in a method that we use, which is called human-centered design. So we design with the beneficiaries, the users of the end product of the intervention, to come up with a way how they can use or we can implement the recommendations. So it is the same thing that we did. We looked at the findings, we looked at the recommendations, and we worked with different groups of creative artists in the districts where we're implementing, which is Jinja and Kampala. And then that's how we came up with the murals that are out there speaking about mental health and creative artists.
That sounds really interesting. And I'm one of the biggest proponents of human-centered design, especially in civil service, where it needs to happen, because there's a lag in feedback. Because by the time a policy comes out, for it to be troubleshot, there's that lag in collecting information. And maybe Wamala sort of like also comment on that. How was that process working with researchers? Because as you know, the creative sort of sector is a bit less streamlined, and research is more stringent because you need to have some sort of fidelity and replicability in the studies. So how was it for you working with Pollicy on executing this?
First of all, creatives look at art as a form of self-expression, and it matters on how you express yourself and how the society will translate that. So working with Pollicy gives us a very solid background in terms of what are we doing and what are we putting out in society. So if we were presented with the research that Pollicy came up with, we as artists had to trickle it down to how it is going to affect a normal person who's going to see this artwork. How are they going to relate with it? And I think it was a very good thing that the artists in Jinja and Kampala were the people in charge of those murals, because they understood their society more than the research made. So it's totally it totally brings out the art and how the background is and how the background of the research is brought into reality and how it relates to the normal person in Jinja, in Kampala.
It gives it deeper. It gives it deeper context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even though they were simple in terms of presentation, the mirrors, and we wanted to make it so simple for anyone to understand and relate with.
Yeah.
I think it was a very beautiful process.
Yeah, to me, what I've collected from what Philip, how he introduced the problem, and how Bonita described it, and how you describe it, is finding this problem of disseminating research information, and then you translating it into a context which can be consumed by the people from those communities.
Yeah.
And I think it's really powerful because it's not about just producing information; it's about accessibility. How are we making sure that at the different stakeholder levels, every stakeholder is accessing this information in an equitable way?
Yeah.
So maybe what I want to sort of hear from you, we shall start with Philip. What did you find most memorable on the project?
Nice. Thank you so much. What you say is how to put information to the stakeholders, which is key, because we need to agree that most of the stakeholders in Uganda, and when I use the word stakeholder, someone might think high. I mean, even the citizens in low socioeconomic, in slums, these are stakeholders.
Everyone who is partaking in this entire process is a stakeholder.
Yes, is a stakeholder. So for me, what was very interesting is beyond the conversation on mental health, I think it's the conversations that creatives, especially Vodo, they did a great job bringing creatives together. They've done several creative meets on mental health, but also they're sort of starting to create conversations or sessions where creatives can come together and say, guys, how can we play a greater role in community? So beyond mental health, there's lots of things that creatives can work on, and I'm glad that Vodo is leading the conversation on, for example, how can we as creatives lead the conversation, for example, on COVID misinformation?
Right.
How can we creatives lead the conversation on climate change? These are all issues that are affecting community, but also most importantly, for me, it was the zeal and seeing that creatives are interested, that this is something they're interested in, and that we were able to break the stigma, that now creatives are able to, speak about mental health, which it previously was taken as an alien thing, a white people thing, but these are conversations that we need to have with ourselves. For me, that was very interesting, seeing creatives be vulnerable among themselves and saying we can support each other even beyond, without going to professionals. We can understand this issue and be able to support each other. For me, that was very interesting.
When we began, we had split the screen and we were showing you the website. All this is accessible on showroom.works. They are hosting the exhibition online with interactive 360 footage and photographs of the process leading up to the exhibition. So where we left off, Philippa just told us about his experience working on the project. Bonita was going to go next to give us her experience working on the project, working with the artists, just a recollection of how it all went. Yeah.
Thank you, Trevor. So, just like Philip, I have the same sentiments. I liked the great enthusiasm that the creative artists had right from the entry meetings that we conducted to gather them together and then share the background of this project. So they were very interested in the project. They were very interested from the beginning. And they kept the momentum. They kept the vibes. That's what they call it. The vibe was there right from the beginning, throughout the interviews, throughout the co-creation process, even up to the painting of the murals. So they kept the vibes, the same momentum. Actually, it was going higher and higher. Even in the other activities that followed, the interactions that followed, it was just very good. They kept in there.
Awesome. Yeah. Omala, how was the experience working with Pollicy?
At first, I was scared. I like a creative person, and Vodo being a collective of artists. We had never worked with a company like Pollicy. Data. We didn't know how we were going to deal with data, this kind of data. How are we going to summarize it in just a single picture? So it kept on challenging me to understand how are we going to keep it Vodo but still cross over into the corporate section and the people who are supposed to understand the creatives kind of thinking and the mental health bit of it. So it was a very good experience. We understood that art can cross over into the government or people who haven't understood the importance and the role of an artist in society. So it gave us more power, and also it pointed out who an artist should be and what you should be doing. So it gave us impact in society. It also gave us a broader view of what mental health is, and some of us were already suffering from mental health, but we did not know. So it enlightened us. It was educative, and also came out as a very, very beautiful experience.
Yeah. So for me, what excited me about the project was this marriage of civil society and grassroots activism with the artists working together.
Yeah.
Because that is important. That's the gap that we have as far as service delivery is concerned. Because you have this gap between the legislation and policy making and the people who are in need of this policy. But now that all the stakeholders are involved, you have a quicker feedback mechanism on policy and how that is growing. So I'm really excited for the work you do next. I'm really excited for the projects you're up to. Maybe you can give us a sneak peek.
So as Pollicy, we're always scratching our heads and seeing how do we demystify this whole thing around data, around all these things. We've also recently done a project. So like I said, we work so much with creatives. We've worked with creatives to gamify misinformation and fake news. And this is something we've already been in conversation with Vodo on how they can chip into that project. We noticed that on the onset of COVID, there was a lot of fear, panic, and all of this was stemming from misinformation and fake news. So we're like, how do we contribute to this conversation beyond the news and debunking and all these internet things? So we said, let's create a game. So we created a game, an African game with African personas. That is, a person should be able to navigate the world of fake news. And the game is called Choose Your Own Fake News. So you can visit chooseyourownfakenews.com to visit it. And the reason it's called Choose Your Own Fake News, that as a person, as you navigate the world online and offline, you should be able to make a decision and find out which is the right news and which is the fake news. So that's why it's called Choose Your Fake News. So many of those works we are doing, also working with creatives to understand the digital. Creatives are being told to go digital and all these things, but then there are digital rights, there is digital safety and all these things. And again, I keep referring to Vodo because there's a lot of works we are cooking together. So I think for the listeners and the Vodo fanatics and Pollicy fans, I think all of you should just stay tuned and wait for what is coming.
You guys are that famous. You have fanatics.
Philip is a pimp.
we shall blot that out in the recording. But and I hope, Philip, that was your sign-out remarks, by the way.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring it in a less conventional sort of.
Yeah.
But Bonita, next, what's interesting in the world of civic research? What are your focuses on at this moment? As you sign us out, tell us what are the prospects for the future?
For me, I should say that the process of research is a continuous process. But the most important thing about research is sharing the findings.
Yes.
Not just keeping them on the shelves, sharing the findings, and then also implementing the recommendations. And actually, even in this session, we are still sharing the findings. We are still sharing the knowledge and the information from this project. So this is something that we want to continue doing as Pollicy, and also we call upon other civil society organizations that do data collection and research, needs assessment, situation analysis, to do the same, to share the findings in similar ways for the public to be able to use them. But also I would like to invite the creative artists to join us for our annual event, Data Fest. We had Data Fest hosted here at Motive.
Yes.
And would invite them. Vodo should join us in our next Data Fest festival and other artists to be able to showcase most of their work, but also how it is at the intersection. It can be married together with research and something like that.
Yeah, because all the intersectionalities between data-driven decision-making are important. Yeah, so I'm really interested to see how that pans out.
Yeah.
So, Wamala, this is you.
I like the point you made about research keeps on.
Yeah.
It keeps on developing, and you have to keep on doing it. As artists, I feel like as Vodo Art Society, we have to continue using this kind of research to also mark our relevancy in society. And I think as artists, we have to timestamp these days we're living in, because they're really important and they're going to reflect in the future. So as Vodo, we are trying to keep on fighting for the value of the artist, and also to work with more companies that are really about pushing how far art can go, and as well as defining what art should do in society and how it could impact our future, even still point out the past. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we are recording. Okay. So yeah,